The fluorescent lights in the second floor corridor hummed the way they always did after last period, thin, tired, a little too bright for the hour. Most of the student body had already drained out toward buses and cars and the usual Friday noise. Only the stragglers remained, a few club kids still packing up, a janitor's guard somewhere distant, and the low murmur of rain beginning against the high windows. Ethan had been looking for her for 20 minutes, not because he wanted to, not because any part of him still claimed the right to know where she was. They were enemies in the casual high school way that felt permanent until it was not. Sharp words in class, cold shoulders in the hallway, the kind of rivalry that had started over something stupid freshman year and classified into habit. Heeseung had told himself he was only checking because the group project partner group chat had gone silent and the deadline was Monday. That was the excuse, the reason sat heavier in his chest. Something about the way Wine had looked that morning, pale under the fluorescent classroom lights, eyes distant, the usual sharp edge of her voice missing. He had checked the library, the courtyard, the empty art room, where she sometimes stayed late, nothing. Then the rain started harder, and an uneasy feeling pushed him further down the hallway toward the quieter wing. The girls' bathroom door was half open. He stopped, listened, heard nothing at first except the soft drip of a faulty faucet and the distant thunder. Then a smaller sound, something like a hitched breath, quickly swallowed. He could not have gone in. He knew that, but the door was already ajar, and the quiet felt wrong, and some part of him that still remembered the day she used to be before the walls went up refused to walk away. He pushed the door wider with two fingers and stepped inside. Mine was sitting on the tilted floor near the far sink, knees down up, arms wrapped tightly around them. Her backpack lay discarded a feet away. The lights above the mirrors cast everything in a flat, unforgiving white. Her head was bowed, dark hair falling forward like a curtain, and for a second he thought she might simply be tired or angry or waiting out the rain. Then he saw her wrist. The sleeves of her school blouse had written up, faint silvered lines crossed the soft skin, there some older, some never, along with a few darker marks that looked decent. Nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical, just quiet evidence that something inside her had been hurting for longer than anyone had noticed. He froze. She looked up. Their eyes met in the mirror first, then directly. The usual flash of hostility never came. Instead, her face went carefully blank, the way people do when they have been caught holding something fragile. They never met anyone to see. Get out, Brian said. The words were soft, almost tired. Not the sharp command he was used to. He didn't move. I said, get out. I was looking for you, Heeseung answered, voice low, project. Chat went quiet. You were not in the library. So you decided the girls' bathroom was the logical next stop. Door was open. A humorless laugh left her. She tucked her sleeve down in one quick motion. But it was too late. He had already seen the silence that followed was thick enough to press against the walls. Outside, rain intensified against the window. Somewhere a locker slammed shut and footsteps varied. He stayed where he was, one hand still on the door, the other hanging useless at his side. All the old arguments, every cutting remark, every rolled eyes, and deliberate snub felt suddenly small and far away. What remained was the simple, sharp fact of her sitting on coral tile, with marks on her skin that spoke of nights no one else had witnessed. "You okay?" he asked, and hated how inadequate the word sounded. She laughed once, short and quiet. "Do I look okay?" No, the honesty landed between them. Ryan looked away, toward the row of sinks jaw tight. Something had happened at home. He could feel it without knowing the details. The way her shoulders were held too carefully, the faint redness around her eyes that makeup had not quite erased, the fact that she was here instead of anywhere else. He didn't ask. Asking felt like another kind of intrusion. Instead, he stepped further in and let the door swing mostly closed behind him, leaving only a crack of hallway light. "You don't have to talk," he said, "but you also don't have to sit on the floor in here until someone else finds you." She didn't answer. Heeseung waited, counted the slow drips from the faucet, listened to the rain. After a long minute, she spoke, voice thinner than before. "My house. It's not good right now. My mom went anyway. I just needed somewhere quiet. I didn't think anyone would still be here." He nodded once. No pressure, no interrogation. Another stretch of silence. Then, almost reluctantly, she unfolded one arm and looked out. The marks herself, as if confirming they were still real. Her finger hovered but didn't touch. "They are not new," she muttered. "Most of them. Just some days are heavier." He soon understood the shape of the admission without needing more. The weight of it settled in his chest like something he had no right to carry and yet could not set down. "Can I help?" he asked. The question surprised them both. She glanced up, searching his face for the usual sarcasm or superiority. Found neither. "How? Get you out of here?" "For starters, somewhere warmer, somewhere you don't have to listen to that faucet drip." She hesitated. The old rivalry flickered, brief, reflexive, then faded again under the heavier thing sitting between them. "I don't want to go." "I was not going to take you there." Another pause, then quietly, "Where then?" "My place. My parents are out of town until Sunday it's empty. Quiet, you can sit or sleep or not talk. Whatever you need. You studied him for a long time. Rain hammered the high windows. Somewhere a clock ticked toward the hour when the building would lock for the weekend. Finally she stood, slow, careful. She kept her sleeves pulled down and reached for her backpack with one hand. He stepped forward without thinking and took it from her, the strap sliding into his palm like something ordinary and heavy. They left the bathroom together. The hallway was empty, their footsteps echoed softly against linoleum and lockers. Neither of them spoke as they walked out into the rain. He offered his jacket without comment. She took it after a moment, resistance, and pulled it over her shoulders. The sleeves too long, the fabric still warm from him. The drive was quiet, rain blurred the windshield, city lights simmered into soft streaks of gold and red. She sat in the passenger seat with her knees drawn up slightly, staring out the window, one hand resting loosely in her lap. He kept his eyes on the road and let the silence be what it needed to be. His house was dark when they pulled into the driveway. He unlocked the front door, flipped on a single lamp in the living room, and set her backpack down by the couch. The place smelled faintly of the lemon cleaner his mother preferred and the lingering scent of the last meal cooked before his parents left. Bathrooms down the hall if you want to wash up. Heeseung said, I'll get some first aid stuff and maybe tea or water, whatever. Ryan nodded once and disappeared down the hallway. He heard the clock, then the soft rush of water. He moved through the kitchen on autopilot, filling the kettle, finding the small plastic box of bandages and antiseptic wipes his mother kept under the sink, setting out a clean towel. His hands were steadier than he expected. The old hostility still existed somewhere in the background, a faint static, but it had no place in this moment. What remained was simpler. She was hurting, and he was here, and that was enough to move on. When she came back out, her face was damp and her hair was loosely tied back. She had rolled her sleeves up just enough to keep them out of the way, exposing the marks fully under the warm living room light. She didn't try to hide them this time. The vulnerability of that choice sat between them like a held breath. He gestured toward the couch. Sit if you want. She did. He sat beside her, close enough that their knees almost touched, and opened the first aid kit. The antiseptic wipes smelled sharp and clean. May I? He asked, voice quiet. She looked at her own wrist, then at him, and gave the smallest nod. He worked carefully, no sudden movements, no unnecessary words. He cleaned the never marks, first, the ones that still needed gentle attention, using soft circular motion and the clean towel to pat the skin dry afterward. He didn't stare, he didn't ask questions. He simply tended to what was in front of him with the same quiet focus he used when repairing something broken in the garage, methodical, present, without judgment. She washed his hand the entire time. Her breathing stayed shallow but steady. Once, when his finger brushed a particularly tender spot, she flinched slightly. He paused immediately, waited, then continued. Only when she relaxed again. You are good at this, she muttered. After a while, I had practiced. My little brother used to wipe out on his bike a lot. A small, almost smile touched the corner of her mouth. It vanished quickly, but it had been there. He finished cleaning, then applied the softest bandages he could find, thin, flexible ones that would not pull or irritate. When he was done, he rested his hand loosely on his own knees and looked at her properly. For the first time since the bathroom, you don't have to tell me anything, heeseung said, about home or anything else. But if you want to, I'm here. She was quiet for a long time. Rain continued against the windows. The kettle clicked off in the kitchen, forgotten. It's not always bad, she said eventually. Just some nights the noise gets too loud, or the silence does, and I don't know how to make it stop any other way. I know it's not healthy. I know, I just her voice caught. She looked down at the neat bandages. I didn't want anyone to see. I know you are going to lecture me. Or tell me I need to talk to someone. Not tonight. He met her eyes. Tonight you just get to sit here and not be alone with it. That's all. Something in her face softened. The last of the all defensive armor slipped. Just a fraction. He stood, retrieved 2 mugs of tea, and returned. They sat side by side on the couch, shoulders almost touching, drinking in silence. The house felt larger than usual around them. Empty doors, distant clocks, the soft percussion of rain outside. The world continued its ordinary Friday evening. Inside, something quieter and more careful was taking shape. After a while, she shifted, leaning her weight almost imperceptibly against his side. He didn't move away, he simply adjusted so she could rest more comfortably, his arm settling along the back of the couch behind her. Not quite an embrace, not yet, just the offer of steady presence. I used to hate you, she said, voice small against the quiet. I know I hated you too, or I thought I did. And now he considered, now I just don't want you to hate alone. She turned her head slightly. Their faces were closer than they had ever been without hostility between them. He could see the faint freckles across the bridge of her nose, the way her lashes were still damp from earlier, the careful way she held herself, as if afraid any sudden movement might break the fragile peace. Can I stay? She asked. Just for tonight. I don't want to go back yet. Yeah, he said. You can stay. I want you to stay. They talked a little after that. Nothing heavy, small things. A shared memory from freshman year that had once been the start of their rivalry, now reframed with softer edges. A teacher they both found ridiculous, the way the rain made everything outside look like water cooler. The conversation moved slowly, carefully, like people testing ice they were not sure would hold. At some point the tea went cold. At some point her head settled more fully against his shoulder. He stayed still, breathing evenly, letting her take whatever comfort the contact offered. Later, when the hour had grown late and the rain had softened to a steady whisper, she lifted her head. Their eyes met again. Something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, residual fear, the first tentative thread of something neither of them had names for yet. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their first kiss was soft, almost hesitant, tasting faintly of tea and rain and the quiet relief of not being alone. It lasted only a moment. When they parted, her eyes stayed closed a second longer, as if memorizing the feeling. That okay? He asked, voice low. She nodded. Yeah, that was okay. They kissed again, a little less carefully this time. Still gentle, still carefully of the fragile thing blooming between them. His hand came up to cradle the side of her face. Her finger curled lightly into the fabric of his shirt. No urgency, no demand. Just the slow, steady exchange of warmth and the quiet promise that the night did not have to be faced alone. When they finally drew back, she rested her forehead against his for a moment, breathing the same air. Thank you, she whispered, for finding me for this. He didn't answer with words. He simply pressed a softer kiss to her temple, then another to the corner of her mouth, and let the silence settle around them again, warmer now, less empty. They stayed like that for a long time. Eventually, she grew heavy against him, exhaustion finally winning. He guided her to lean more fully into the couch, pulled a soft throw blanket over both of them, and kept one arm loosely around her shoulders. She slept with her head near his collarbone, one bandaged wrist resting lightly against his chest. He stayed awake a while longer, listening to the rain and the steady rhythm of her breathing. The old rivalry felt like a story that belonged to different people now. What remained was simpler and far more important, the quiet determination to keep showing up, to keep offering gentleness where there had once been only sharp edges, and to make sure that the next time the weight became too heavy, she would not have to carry it alone in an empty bathroom under lights. Outside, the storm began to ease. Inside, the house held them both in its quiet rooms, and for the first time in a long while, the night felt less like something to survive and more like something that might eventually begin to heal.